And we are live. Thanks everyone for being here during the market mayhem. A lot of scared people today, I can see in the comments and everywhere. How are you feeling, James?
Good. There's been a lot of dark clouds on the horizon for the last 3 or 4 weeks. So I'm not surprised. And we'll break all that down today as well as to what has markets rattled. And is it the end? That's the big question.
Exactly. Marty, what's on your mind?
I'm extremely relieved. Today is a good day for me. Finally, we have this pullback. It's been a lot of tension waiting, a lot of scared people, but we called it. We knew it was coming. You should have got the dream entries. Nothing to complain about now. Now we should go up.
Situation.
Yeah, I didn't call this. I've been definitely wearing some pain. I mean, I thought we would bounce ahead of the Trump inauguration, but macro really derailed this week, and I think that's dragged down a lot of crypto with it. And yeah, I think macro is now coming really to the forefront here for crypto, which I think is we spoke about last week, and that's kind of become much more strong than even what I thought would be a Trump pump going into that inauguration. We may still have it this week, but I did not see Sol going down to, what was it, 170 this morning? Crazy move.
168 was touched, I believe.
Crazy.
Yeah. So we will definitely cover that today. What's on everyone's mind is basically, is Bitcoin breaking or is it holding support? Is this the end or is it a flush? We will really get into that because that's, of course, what sets the stage for all other projects as well. We look at the ETF flows, the Saylor buys, we look at the stocks, we look at the macro that, as Mando is mentioning, it has really played a key role here. We will talk about geopolitical, what's retail doing, and then we will, as usual, go into some of the alts as well. We'll talk about the usual, the Sol, the Zeus. I want to revisit AI agents. Let's look at stocks. And also, let's look at two things. What are the opportunities here in the panic mode? A lot of people are in the panic mode right now as we're recording this show. What opportunities are there? And what are profit-taking strategies for those of you who feel that it's getting too much? Well, how should you think in that situation? And anything else that comes up. There's a lot happening. So if I may start a little bit here then with the Bitcoin situation. For me, I think it looks pretty good. I have had support here. Could argue if it should be a little bit higher. But regardless, in that case, we had a huge wick below support today and price immediately shot back up above support. So for me, this looks fine. But should it break here and we close below, okay, then it's quite a bit further down. But that hasn't happened yet, as I see it. I feel exactly like Marty said, that this looks like a flush that reverted. And that's actually pretty good news for me. So who wants to add to the Bitcoin? Let's talk about the Bitcoin situation first. Marty, you've had these different scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, on Thursday, I put up a post that, got almost 1 million views. It was a very real post, which is what I've been talking about the whole time, which was there were 3 possible scenarios for Bitcoin, and it's all about probabilities. And the worst case scenario, I would say, was a 5% chance. I still think it's a 5% chance that we reach the technical head and shoulders target, which is in the 74 region. Then a 15% chance that we hit the 200 EMA, which Bitcoin always retraces to the 200 daily EMA before it moves up. And that's sitting at now, it's moved up a little bit, around 78,500. And then that there was a 35% chance that we would continue on our trend line and keep trading up before setting a low. And a 45% chance that they would sweep that last liquidation level, which was at 88,888 or 89,000. And, that was Thursday, and it played out perfectly. The 35% chance failed, obviously. It's 35% chance. The 45% chance hit. We swept the 89.5. There are no more liquidation levels on a daily until we get to 66,000. So I think the probability of going lower is quite small now. I'd say 20% chance we go lower and break that low of 89.5. But now it's just upside. They ran for the liquidity, they got it, and that's how it works, people. You've got to sit on the daily chart and look at it, and you can't get caught up in the weeds. And I'm very happy because the waiting is the worst part. Obviously, we had all that horrible U.S. Silk Road FUD uncertainty rolling into the week, which I don't think helped people. I just feel for those that panic sold. If you panic sold, you're going to buy higher. It's just the way it is. But that's my take. I'm very happy. I'm relieved. Solana, we knew. I had a gentleman on my community who was in a very bad position. He had long sold at 210 with $50,000. And, I sold him, like, what are you doing? Like, follow the liquidity. There's liquidity at 175. It's coming for that. And probably with FOMO selling, with panic selling, it's going to drop lower. 160, 150. You've got to expect that. This is crypto. If you can't tolerate the crypto pullbacks, you shouldn't be in crypto. You should hold spot, if anything, and go for a walk. This is how it works. And I'm going to reiterate it today. The technical patterns don't lie. Head and shoulders will correct. It's the way it is. They're not going to leave open longs when we go to Bitcoin 1 million. So there we go. Everything played out exactly as I thought. It's a great day to be relieved. We have flushed. You should have gotten at the lows. If you didn't get at the lows, that's fine. All eyes now on the stock market, like you said, Mando. The S&P pulled back 10 points overnight. It's recovering at 578 right now. The future's at 20,800. We're going to see whether the stock market recovers. But I'm very impressed with the Bitcoin bounce, CTO. Very impressed with the
for that. Very, very valuable. To introduce the next topic, the ETF flows don't look that bad to me, and Saylor is buying as usual. But I'm sure, James, you have some more up-to-date information here. Can I hand over to you a little bit?
Yeah, this is super interesting, and this took me by surprise. So we have shrimps, which are people that own less than one whole coin, and you know how I'm very, very big on urging people to get to whole coin status, because that will be a very important kind of mini life changer for the future. But this is from Glassnode, and there was a period of distribution, and we saw retail kind of not really coming into the market until now. So Bitcoin shrimps now have an all-time high bag size. They have been bagging about 18,000 Bitcoin a month. And the cohort now holds about 1.36 million Bitcoin, which is about just a 7% of all Bitcoin. And again, all-time high. And this is at a time when you got Michael Saylor stacking like a madman. You got the ETFs. So the ETF bags pull from this pool. These are individual retail investors, small positions, lots of them. So that is very positive, because we said, this is kind of a treasury game now. Retail aren't here. They're playing with meme coins. Well, that may not be true, because somebody somewhere is stacking Bitcoin. And it might be people that are in parts of the world that are really suffering right now. They see the macro, our friends in Canada, they see their currency depreciating every single day. Our friends in Europe, our friends in the United Kingdom. The euro, the British pound, the Canadian dollar, they're all totally in the shitter. Now, there is one other thing too, another little ray of sunshine. This is from Nate Garacki, who knows ETFs. He predicts 50 new crypto ETFs coming this year. Okay, Solana, XRP, yada, yada. And that will also be very big news. And there's also one other little piece of news that is kind of interesting. Michael Saylor has bought 250,000 Bitcoin in the last 365 days. His most recent purchase, just yesterday, whatever it was.
2,500.
Yeah, 2,530, bigger than normal. $250 million. And he's been buying now 10 weeks in a row. But just that cannot be understated. One player sucking in $250,000 Bitcoin in just 365 days. And remember, only 450 Bitcoin are issued per day. So will continue, as he always says, he'll always buy the top. He will never sell. He is sucking all of the new issuance and more. This purchase here is, I think, 1.6, 1.7 years of Bitcoin issuance. One player, and there's more coming. So that's kind of the kind of behind the scenes Bitcoin on-chainy stuff that I think is quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, MicroStrategy is now 450,000 Bitcoin, people. Remember, Binance is 660, and BlackRock is now 557. So MicroStrategies is a close third. And when he passes or touches BlackRock, or BlackRock pushes on Binance, I think we see a totally different market. I think that's what we're watching.
Yeah.
James, can I ask one thing that I've been thinking about? So Saylor's average buying price now, according to this site, I don't know if it's completely updated, but they did have the January 13th, today's update in there. So average DCA price 62,000.
Yes.
But there is still this premium, like 1.89x premium. So when buying the shares, you're paying a premium over the Bitcoin that he owns. Will this will it like stabilize to 1, this premium in the end, or will there always be a premium like this?
Excuse me. I think there's two things can happen. And we saw this actually where, like, I was buying MicroStrategy at a credit where the market cap of MicroStrategy was under their Bitcoin bag during the bear when the MicroStrategy price fell to 160, and that was pre-split, so $16. Think about that. It's like 320 now, but that can happen. Not only can it fall to parity to their Bitcoin bag, assuming there's no intrinsic value for the business, etc., but it can actually go lower because of a whole bunch of different reasons. I think that could definitely happen in the bear again. But the other thing as well, I think if you look forward out to say 2028 to 2030, and you look at the trends of Bitcoin treasuries snapping up everything is going to be a Bitcoin treasury. Now, I think who put it back on the ballot? Meta are considering buying some Bitcoin right now, and others. And they've got 76 billion in cash. I think once everybody does treasuries, the NAV premium will go lower. But this is what Saylor sees, and it's not a tricky math. One, he can sell a share for more than it's worth in Bitcoin terms. That's the NAV premium. He buys more Bitcoin, stacks it. So as a shareholder, you get more Satoshis per share every time he buys. All you have to do is wait a little bit. And that's the simple infinite money glitch that we've been talking about now for 4 years plus. And it's continuing. But now the problem is other players are jumping in. So will it continue? Yeah, during a bull market, during a bear market, be careful. And of course, by 2030, 2028, 2032, NAV premiums will all be arbed away.
Let's switch gears. Let's go into the macro, because I feel like Mando said, a lot of this dramatic price action has really been driven by the macro factor. So let me just introduce it a little bit. All the yield charts, they've had these massive breakouts into new territory, really. This is the 10-year yield. Here is the 2-year yield. There was the support. It broke the resistance. It broke above it. DXY, the dollar strength index, you can see here how it kept bouncing. Now it massively broke out here. And this has really put the wet blanket on stocks. If we look at the S&P 500, this is a head and shoulders, which is generally a top pattern. A lot of traditional investors will see this. They get spooked. And for sure, this affects all assets, like, I don't know, anything from gold or Bitcoin or anything, any stock, basically. So that has all happened. Yeah, and one more thing. I looked at this CME, what the market thinks about target rate probabilities. Today's target rate is 425 to 450. And if we look at January, the 97% think there will be no cut. Then we look at March, still no cut. May, no cut. June, no cut. July, say like equal. And only in September, there is a somewhat majority who think that we get some rate cuts. So these are all the facts and the status now. But what do we think? Because one thing we have observed on this show is that the market has frequently been completely wrong here. If looking at what they think on CME versus what has actually played out has been very different. Do we start with you, Mando, and then you can all chip in here?
Yeah, I think from this time to last show, those have been the two main things. So firstly, around the time that we were selling off last week, we were wondering what was going on. A couple of days after that, a headline came out that the Silk Road Bitcoin, which amounts to about 6.5 billion, was actually up for sale, and everyone kind of freaked out around that. That's a large chunk of Bitcoin that was coming to market, which it's unclear if it's been sold or if it will be sold, but they basically have been given the green $6.5 billion of Bitcoin, and everyone kind of freaked out about that because Trump was meant to maybe safeguard that amount when he Bitcoin reserve. So that came under challenge. And the second, just an extension of this macro worries that I've been saying or highlighting for the last few weeks now, months even, that 10-year yield pushed even higher. I said that's the number one thing to focus on. We went up towards 4.8%. In the last week, that meant stocks, S&P's down 4%. Bitcoin's down around 12, 13% now. NVDA down 15%. Oil is back above $81 because there's going to be sanctions coming into Russia. This has been a real macro sell-off. In fact, some of the forces that were driving that sell-off beforehand got even stronger. Now, what I said last week is that I felt like in that sort of world, Bitcoin dominance may actually come down. That's normally a tougher market for Bitcoin, and that we were seeing like a flourishing in what was happening, kind of AI meets crypto, and that could drive some of the smart contract platforms. What we've actually seen is because you've had this sell-off, Bitcoin's it just held up that 90.5K level. It's quite a big deal, and bounced back up to 92K. It's held that level of support very, very well. And more of, let's say, the higher risk parts of the market have fallen as you've seen this macro sell-off. So Bitcoin dominance has gone back up to around just shy of 59%, which has meant a deeper sell-off in things like Solana and all the way down the risk spectrum. If Nvidia's down 15%, everything's been smashed. Those AI agents are back to around 12 billion. So we've kind of reversed the last 2 weeks of that happening. Memes are down very, very strongly. A lot of the DeFi stuff is down very, very strongly. It's been really down the risk spectrum. Everything's been absolutely smashed. Now, I don't know if that will continue. I still like the bright spots of crypto, or like particularly crypto meets AI, but also there are other like emerging trends, which I think could keep that very, very strong. But if we continue to see this broader macro sell-off, what this tells me is you can't bank on the fact that Bitcoin dominance is going to drop. Like, people might see Bitcoin as kind of a safe haven if you see that sort of a sell-off, and it may continue to hold that level of support even while the rest of the market sells off. But make no mistake, this has been a macro sell-off. You need to be paying attention to macro right now. This week we have CPI, we have PPI. There's going to be a lot of focus on that again for crypto. It really reminds me of kind of 2022, if I'm honest, when a lot of this stuff was happening. And the main thing, again, on Friday, for example, we had a slightly stronger jobs report. That meant the whole market sold off again. 10-year went higher. Stocks have gone down lower again. And there's a big, big worry here going into this Trump inauguration that, we're not going to get rate cuts. Interest rates may stay high around this 5% level. And that, we saw markets go higher. Particularly macro, like stocks went high even with interest rates at 5%. So it's not what you tend to find when you have these sell-offs is not often like the stable value. It's the change in it's the change in expectations. So people thought we were heading down towards 3%, 2% interest rates, banana zone, money printing, and now that's switched. And although interest rates may just stay where they are, that's a big change in people's expectations. Now, what you're starting to see is pockets of a little bit worries. The UK, for example, a lot of worries right now about the UK with interest rates being this high. A lot of worries about China. Like if the dollar stays high and China's currency stays low, like they're going to be in a deflation cycle. You saw deflation prints last week happening out of there. So that means money printing from them forever. That's generally good for Bitcoin. But again, China turning into Japan, it's maybe not great for the global economy. Like, people can worry about that. That can lead to like big sell-offs on a macro basis. So I just think that a lot of people are paying attention to that sort of stuff again. I still hold that sort of view that I think crypto is about to flourish with some of the stuff that people are going to be able to do with it, with Trump coming in, particularly if you start to get better regulation around DeFi, RWAs, AI. But macro is having a wobble right now. And that is what's caused this whole sell-off over the last week. That's why Solana, which to me looked like a really good buy, like 192, 190, whatever it was when we were doing the show last week, or 195 even, went down to 160 because NVIDIA is down 50%, S&P is down 4%, bond yields have gone much higher, and people who hold the higher risk assets are just selling that sort of stuff. Bitcoin has the institutional flows coming into it. As you said, the Bitcoin ETF flows weren't that bad. It's held up much better.
Yeah, thanks for that. James, do you want to add some perspective?
Yeah, let's talk about job market, because that what's tanked the markets again. As a little quick slide on that as well. Just as a reminder, a couple of things. The job market is always fake. I've made videos about how the BLS data is complete BS. And yes, they said there's more jobs than expected. Good news is bad news again. It tanked the market because then they felt, okay, they're not going to cut rates now. That's a bad sign. But they always revise jobs down. That's from Zero Hedge. The other thing that I do want to mention is every risk assets, which stock market, crypto, etc., they always follow movements in bond and credit markets. Not all the time, but most of the time, which is extremely important. And this provides, we saw this happening last week and the week before, and that's the big cloud on the horizon. Fiats are in the toilet, euro, Canadian dollar, etc., Chinese yuan, really bad situation. But there's also some other things a little bit concerning. And this one here is, I don't know how true it is or not, but this was rattling markets. Mando, you pointed it out. China, D-Day style barges. Maybe it's for another purpose. Financial Times thinks people are being over concerned. But that is a concern. There's concern about the invasion of Taiwan and, is Xi and Trump playing hardball with each other? I don't know how true it is. The other thing that's very interesting, which is another indicator of how afraid people are, is cash on the sidelines. I've been getting more conservative myself for quite a while now. And you can see this represented here in this chart, 7 trillion of cash in the sidelines. Now that will only go down when rates tank. The final point I do want to make is the guy coming in, DJT, his barometer of success is always stock market performance. For him to show he is successful, he has to bring rates down. And I think he's going to exert a lot of pressure on Jerome Powell to do exactly that. So forget the CME numbers. Rates have to come down. Real estate is destroyed in the United States and probably other places around the world. Nobody can afford a home. Nobody. Nothing is selling on the market. Only cash buyers. And the cash buyers in many wealthy areas like Malibu and Palisades just lost everything. It's literally the macro is on fire. Southern California is on fire. You can't make this, and I hope everybody's okay down there, but it is just a dark time right there in the macro for sure.
Yeah, just to touch upon. There you go, Marty.
Just my perspective on the macro. I mean, this is all predicted. We've got 3 days till Scott Bessent comes in to replace Janet Yellen or goes through the hearing. I think that's a massive thing. We've got, obviously, we didn't talk about it. The Florida hurricanes was 100 billions of economic damage. The fires in LA is now $150 billion of economic damage. That's $250 billion imposed onto the insurance industry, which is already underwater. I think the US is bankrupt. The reverse repo has been drained. This week, our reports on the reverse repo, that is them printing money. That's how they print money. They pumped it up 400 billion. It's already down today to 178. They're draining the reverse repo. It's just a matter of time before they have to print money. They're going to hold it out until Trump. That's 7 days. That's 1 week from now. They're going to leave Trump with a big shit show. That's obviously that's the only power they have left, this administration. And this should be expected. I've told you this week could be very volatile. This is what it means. Now I'm watching the reverse repo. We do have a higher low. It just turned up to 177. So they are starting to print again. How much? I don't know. Global liquidity looks like it's bottoming out. It's coming, people. The banana zone will come. They will print $20 to $30 trillion. It's just a question of time. But don't underestimate the damages from these fires and hurricanes on the US economy. And obviously, like James said, the numbers, the unemployment numbers, don't even look at them. It's all bullshit. They have no idea. The numbers are wrong. They're faking it all. So that's my perspective. Hold the line. Do not sell. Hold, hold. The Trump inauguration, we always say good news. They're going to flush the market. They did. Let it happen. There'll be a stream of news, a stream of PR coming out of the Trump inauguration, which will be bullish, and including money printing. I believe they have to print money to bail out the insurance industry, to bail out the real estate industry, to prevent another great financial crisis. That's my perspective. Take some Xanax, get sleep, don't get sick, don't freak out, meditate. This is going to be a tough week, but we know it's going to happen. It's an 80-year cycle. We're at it. This is it, 2025. This is go time. There we go. That's my perspective.
Thank you. Mando, you wanted to add something?
No, I think it was a good little speech there. I actually think that, yeah, this isn't a bearish period for crypto. Like, we haven't cared about macro for most of this year. Like, global liquidity has actually been going down since 2021. Like balance sheet, global balance sheet of these central banks. We only cared about it in the changes in expectations. And I think once this settles again, we're going to come into, as Marty says, this is like a very, very bullish period here for crypto. A lot of the use cases, we're now, hopefully under the Trump administration, we're going to see a bunch of those start to get pushed through, and this can be very, very bullish. But macro, I think, can have a bit of a wobble here for Q1. Like, I think it needs to work out what it wants to do for a little bit here, because things have changed, and that change normally leads to stresses. And we may, like last time we saw these sort of stresses, you saw like the regional banks had a bit of a worry. I'm telling you, that sort of stuff will be under worry. Again, the fact that all these regional banks will have unrealized losses on their balance sheets, you'll have people talking about, you might see people talking about some of the major cities, like with hurricane risks in Florida and California on the back of some of this stuff, particularly around commercial property. You'll see people talking about EM. There's a lot of EM currencies which are dangerously in dangerous territory right now. But just expect people to that sort of macro worry. With rates high again, that normally leads to things potentially breaking on a macro level, and Bitcoin, or at least crypto, seems to react quite a lot to it. I still think this is an amazing time to be involved in crypto. Like, this is going to be a time where a lot of the use cases potentially get found out, and we're going to see widespread adoption, particularly if you start to see a Bitcoin reserve as well.
Yeah. I just want to say, if anyone lost their home in LA, really sorry for your loss. It's terrible. People I know, living there, and the whole block is up in smoke. It's completely crazy. And many of the richest people in the world, they lived on that strip. It's all gone. And I don't know. Of course, I shouldn't sit outside and criticize, but it seems like it's not being well managed. I think probably not so much in the emergency stage as in the preparations. And I hope some real change, positive change, comes out of that disaster. That's my thoughts on that. Let's switch gears and let's talk about altcoins a little bit. So from my side, I thought actually that Solana support would hold here at 186 and the 0.002 in the Sol to BTC chart. So I bought here actually. Now price is a little bit below that. Of course, a little bit concerning, but looking at many of the Solana KPIs, it looks very good. Like looking at the DEX volume over 24 hours. Here is Solana 28 billion, Ethereum 16 billion, Base 11, BSC 9, Arbitrum 5, Sui 2. So, I mean, the lead here that Solana has is enormous. And the cumulative amounts haven't caught up yet. If we look at the DEX TVL, it's 11 billion on Ethereum and only 2 billion on Sol. So it seems like there is still an upside here. So I'm still interested in Solana. Let's talk about Sui also. Sui is getting added to Phantom Wallet, right? Which has been a key success factor for Solana. James, do you want to start a little bit with the Solana side, and then Marty, maybe you can cover Sui in great detail? Should we do like that? You're muted, James.
Sounds good.
Muted. There's a little slide there that Solana hit a new all-time high in stablecoin market cap, which is good news. And a lot of other stuff, a ton of activity. You can remove the slide now. In terms of new tokens, pump.fun, etc., it still is very active. And I spend a lot of time, like Sui is the only other layer one that I own. And it's interesting when you look at the fully diluted market cap, it's not a deal anymore compared to Solana. So again, that could all change. You'll have to look at the amount of DEX volume and the daily active users and daily transactions. And also at the same time, Firedancer, Marty's very, very well aware, there are versions up and running right now live, and that could be a complete game changer. But at the end of the day, what matters is best, cheapest, fastest, and the dApps that have the most traction with adoption. That's how you appraise a coin. But as I'll stress one more time, when you look at the domination of things like Base, Sui, and Solana, those three alone are pretty much handling everything. And we know 67% of all transactions happen on Solana right now. And the Phantom news is big because that's kind of the gateway to crypto. The easier the wallet is to use and the more frictionless it is, the more adoption you have. So it's good news for the whole space. But remember, Phantom is a Solana play as well. Marty.
Yeah, I mean, we've never had more fundamentally bullish situation in crypto in general, and that rolls from Bitcoin. Obviously, we know we had 2 more states this week propose strategic Bitcoin reserves. We had New Hampshire and North Dakota both put in bills to get strategic bills. So everything is bullish. I know, and I always will tell you, the prices and the charts are manipulated. It's traders. They don't really care about the fundamentals. We're talking about the fundamentals. The fundamentals of Solana and Sui have never been better. Firedancer, we all know, is going to roll out. They're being very cautious because they obviously don't want anything to fail at this point, because we know the FUD that leads to. But Q1 is now. So we're in Q1 when Firedancer is supposed to launch. We have around 0.5% of the stake already running on Firedancer. We actually have live instances of Firedancer. I can show you one. Anders, just pop that up. Here's Juicy Stake, a large staking installation. There you can see running Firedancer. This is the new user dashboard for stakers, for validators. You can see it's on another level. Okay, people aren't even ready for what's happening on Solana. I keep telling you that. You don't believe me? These guys are already solving the problems that current blockchains will face in 2 to 3 years' time. And that is the latency and bandwidth issues of the public internet. They're solving it with the 00 project to create private networks for L1s. They're solving it with Firedancer to make 1 million TPS capable. Now, you ask yourself, what is this for? Well, so for a year since I've been on the show, I've been telling you, real-world assets, stable coin economies, and a digital NASDAQ. This is the future of markets. This is the future of retail. This is the future. You can call it an outsourced CBDC, whatever you want to call it. This is the future. This is where the project's been built. It's highly endorsed by government employees at this point. We've got David Sachs, a big Solana bull, who's now the crypto czar. Do not sleep on Solana. I told you before, we had liquidity at 170, 175. They came and got it. This is how it works, okay? Now, the next step forward, Solana and Sui. Solana, we know, is leading the market, okay, in all fundamentals. Price-wise, they're still at $178. We were at 150 for 300 days. We're at another Fibonacci. We haven't lost it. I believe from here we move up. We move up to $300. Sui, live on Phantom. Spritz, the second best off-ramp to Coinbase, is now doing their second installation to Sui. That's massive. I don't know if you guys are aware of Spritz. If you do use crypto, want to spend crypto globally in a virtual card on Apple Pay, Spritz is your best option. It's hands down better than Coinbase. I highly suggest looking at Spritz Finance. I'm very good friends with them. Spritz is going to Sui. We've got Phantom going to Sui. We've got Sui launching Walrus, decentralized storage coming out. Sui and Solana are going balls to the wall into Internet 2. Internet 2 is the future. Okay, this is all just a test right now. Yes, Base is number 3. Absolutely, Base is number 3. They've got the support of Coinbase. But they do face some certain issues, and I iterated them last week, and I'll say it again. They are highly regulated, which means from a DeFi perspective, they're going to have to face things like KYC and AML, which means they're going to be limited in their use of AI agents and automation, things like that. They're going to have to play it easy. Plus, Base is very much an Ethereum shop, and at any moment, they can make their own Base token and get off Ethereum. So for Ethereum lovers, Base might not be your ultimate friend. Those are your 3, Solana, Sui, and Base. In the industry, nobody talks about anything else. Everything else is just pipe dreams and virtual vaporware at this point. But coming into this new year, we're going to see a stream of news. You have no idea. You're not even ready for it. Crypto adoption is going mainstream. This has all been a doldrum on purpose to stock up for validators, to stock up state, and to prepare for probably the greatest financial event in history, which is the digitization of money. Legal tender in Kenya, legal tender in several other countries. I'm not going to name them because currently it's speculation. Crypto is going mainstream. Okay, so just be prepared. Invest in the layer ones of the networks that move the money. That's Solana, Sui, and obviously Base you can't invest in. You can buy Ethereum. I would wait for the Base token. If it does come out, I personally will invest. That's what's perspective on that. Let me see if I've got any other breaking news. By the way, Tether is moving to El Salvador. That just came out. That's big news.
Crazy. I haven't seen that actually. What win for Bukele.
Very interesting. Okay, so Circle minted $1 billion of USDC on Solana. We have Solana stablecoin all-time highs. That's usually an indicator of, a move. So expect that. We've got Sol Strategies, the Solana version of MicroStrategies. 2 major events this week. They got a $25 million extension of their line of credit to buy more Sol at the low. Obviously, they bought. Well done. Congratulations, Leah. And they got a $27 million private placement from Parafire, a big validator client. So they're moving. They're following the MicroStrategy chart game plan. The only difference is their reserve asset earns yield, whilst Bitcoin doesn't. It's a very interesting play. We also got volatility shares, people. Everyone's been saying, how is the Solana ETF, spot ETF, going to go live without a futures ETF? They listed today on the SEC. You can look it up right now. They filed for 5 Solana future ETFs, a 1X, a 2X, a 1X short. It's happening. Volatility shares is going to pick up the futures ETF. You have 5 spot ETFs rolling out probably after, the first month of Trump. I expect Scott Bessent to start approving these things and to prove a money print. Guys, it's happening. We knew the flush was coming. You cannot be shocked. Nothing goes up forever. It has to pull up. Now, the big news for me is the SPY. I want to talk about the SPY just for a second. I have the liquidation levels on the SPY, the S&P 500. It's currently at 5,770. The level I'm looking for the SPY to pull back is 5,500. Don't be shocked. That's 20 points down. That would be your 50% pullback from the move from August. Crypto will take back the entire Trump pump we just did. Okay, the Trump pump was fake. The initial Trump pump from November 1st, everything was pulled back except Bitcoin. Thank God. I think we got a lower high. But the SPY's next. Nothing's going to happen until the SPY pulls back. Let's watch it over the next. Go ahead.
5,500, you said.
I think 550 on the SPY. Yes.
So
50% from the low of 517 to the high of 609. I think that's the pullback that'll take out the high leverage positions and the low leverage positions almost entirely. 550. That's what I'm looking for. On futures, so that's around 19,000. Yes. That's what I'm looking for right now. Once that's hit and that turns, we're going to the moon. That's your banana zone. And it times up perfectly with the Trump inauguration. Perfectly with Janet Yellen and Gary Gensler going out of office. Perfectly with all the macro events. The only issues we're going to have is this Chinese thing with Taiwan, this posturing. Seems like Trump and Putin are getting on well. I think that's going to diffuse very fast. The Middle East seems to have tempered down. I think that's going to diffuse fast. We've got a new Fair Tax 2025 Act in the Congress yesterday. This has been, obviously, people will tell me, yes, Marty, They've been talking about it for 5 years, but they keep pushing it every year, and Biden keeps vetoing it. Perhaps Trump will approve it. That's a 23% sales tax, eliminating the IRS income tax at the federal and state level, people. This is a major tax revision proposal. It's already got 11 Congress people support. Look out for that, the Fair Tax Act 2025. That's my updates. There we go.
That's great. That is fantastic. There is one big topic that at least I want to listen to today, and that is the AI agents. And a reason is that I was a little bit late on this myself. Now when we do have a pullback, perhaps some opportunities could arise here. So Mando, you made a very appreciated coverage of this a couple of shows ago. Do you want to share your thoughts?
Yeah, sure. So we ran up to around 16, 17 billion from like 500 million when we first mentioned it on the show. We're now back to about just shy of 13 billion. There's a few things that happened here over the last week. Some of this is the macro stuff. Like there's been quite a lot of FUD around some of the AI names, some of the regulation that Biden brought in. NVIDIA was criticizing even today. Some of that FUD around Taiwan. Obviously, the whole US buys Greenland thing, or maybe even US invades Greenland thing, I think that would make Taiwan a much higher risk, just to be quite frank. I think that would probably give a green light for China to do whatever the hell they like there. But so there's been quite a lot of FUD just in general from that macro backdrop. So you had a bit of a sell-off there. Secondly, like the main project, the number one project on Solana was this project AI16Z, which is this open source framework, which I've mentioned a few times. The founder of that has faced quite a lot of FUD for some of his actions over the last week or so, and some of his comments. There's been generally slightly bad vibes around that project, so that dropped pretty substantially this week. That culminated with a project over the weekend, which a number of top AI founders were involved in. It was like a DAO. I think Bankless caught some strays off the back of that too. But there's just generally been a little bit of FUD around the actions of the AI16Z team. At the same time, there's been this subset of what's been going on in AI meets crypto called DeFi or AI-Fi, where a lot of DeFi projects are kind of like rolling back into AI and seeing what they can do in terms of swaps, in terms of farming, DeFi optimization. There's a very famous DeFi founder called Daniel Sester who's created a project called Hayanon, which again is creating a framework around that. That's done very, very well. So you've seen, again, what I was talking about last week was we're starting to see applications come out. We saw applications, and that is now centered really around DeFi this week. So a bunch of different projects in the space are focused on that. The number one is probably Graphane, Hayanon, which is this other one, and a few other smaller ones. But there's been macro FUD and there's been some micro FUD around some of the actions of that AI16Z team. And over the weekend there was this Bankless DAO which kind of caught some heat, which you know, that I don't really know if that was overblown or not. But if you go on the 7-day, the winners were these smaller projects. So, and I think you'll see this a lot. So while the general market cap of the whole sector is going higher, or at least has been an upward trend, we're back up to like 13 billion. You tend to see that like a lot of them get vampire attacked. So if you go back to that original screen of the top market cap coins, maybe I don't know what you're looking at right now, but like the winners this week have been projects like Ava, Hayanon, CGPT, which are like other projects which have been trying to do the same as the leaders, or Pippin, for example, which is an open source project on Solana as well. And they're often replicating what some of the winners are doing, maybe with new features. So you see, like, I don't know, it's very, very difficult to underwrite utility for a long, long time on these sort of projects, because AI, it's so easy to replicate what people are doing. And so there's always like next week, there's another project that comes out, which is just as strong as the last one. They're all built on open source Rails. So often that requires like big positive externality effects of like the network growing very, very big, which AI16Z had, but then has faced FUD over this project. So I feel like the Solana ecosystem is still trying to work out who's going to be the leader. It's trying to consolidate around like which are going to be the leaders of this cycle, even while this whole space sees a little bit of red. But yeah, those are the main themes: macro FUD, micro FUD, a little bit of I would say questions around this AICC bankless DAO that happened, and then some of the smaller projects doing much better, particularly in the DeFi meets AI space.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that, Mando, too, because the VCs see the same issue with AI. It is democratizing everything. We're reducing moats and barriers to entry, and everything can be replicated. So they don't even know where to invest anymore, because if they invest in something today, it'll be cannibalized by something else a week later, and they've never seen this before.
This is one of the main issues with some of these AI projects. So like, it is that exact thing. Like there is some of the best, or the opportunity for really great utility in crypto meets AI stuff, but the moats around the projects are very low, and they're even lower in crypto because a lot of it's open source.
Yep.
Whereas OpenAI, is closed, right? Like, so they can say, we've got our models are closed. A lot of these are built on open source Rails. So really, what then it relies on is building a massive network in the but then it requires on the network of things being done on that project, and often also like the vibes around the project, and what you're starting to see is some of that gets questioned around these. Like AI16Z, I think has got a really strong initial mover advantage, but then some of the other stuff got questioned. You have slightly smaller projects which have also got built on open source Rails, things like Arc or Pippin, like we saw, or Ava, which are all slightly smaller projects, which maybe they're done slightly better on the network effects, the vibes over the last couple of weeks, and they've started to be stronger. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this develops, because it's like if Ethereum was created and then like a ton of other L1s have been created, and a lot of them are wrestling it out for which is going to be the best as this grows.
Yeah, the interesting thing, I mean, AI is making the replication even easier of the AI projects. Like basically, if you can articulate what you want done and you can link to a bunch of repos, AI as such can replicate almost anything trivially.
Marty, can you... Yeah, a quick good question actually in the chat here. Marty, can you check the wallets for the U.S. government? Did they dump or did they not dump?
No, I don't think they dumped. I actually
haven't dumped.
I spoke to an expert. Let me give you guys an update. I spoke to Aidan Larkin at Asset Realty. Asset Realty is a company, a services company that helps governments manage their seized assets. And what I learned was these seizures go under a rigorous protocol. So first they have to get approval from a judge to move the assets, which is what they got. So be very cautious of FUD. The reporting of this event was horrendous, including myself. There was so much uncertainty. Even Arcam had a chart showing that their balance had gone to zero, which I put up. Literally everybody got this wrong. A judge first has to approve that they can move them. Then it goes into a protocol. Let me read you what he told me. He said, the US government has to follow a strict process before selling the seized 69,000 Bitcoin. Basically, the recent court approval is par for the course for any civil forfeiture. And no, it doesn't mean the US is immediately hitting the sell button. There's a very strict process that has to get followed. At some point in the future, it'll just go through the normal government processes. There will be a civil forfeiture application hearing following to an auction. They will get their green light, and then it will fall into the normal marshal's process, public domain auction process. So understand this is a long time out. They haven't sold. And we just have to understand that. Okay? We just have to accept that. This is from a professional. When they will sell, yes, it's still looming in the future. We're going to have to wait for Trump. We're going to have to wait for Loomis. I know Loomis just attacked Choke Point. James, did you see her tweet?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
She's incredible.
Loomis tweeted yesterday on a Sunday. This woman is working on a Sunday for us. She says allegations of attacks against digital asset companies by staff at the FDIC, if true, are bone-chilling. Operation Choke Point 2.0 is real. She said is real. And I will work with Senate Banking Chair Tim Scott and incoming Treasury Secretary Bassett to get to the bottom of these serious allegations. Understand, people, this is the calm before the storm.
It's not just deep corruption, but yeah,
yes,
there's all sorts of sex scandals and everything. It's just the FDIC shouldn't, and everybody should be flushed. Like many other government departments. And there's going to be a whole bunch of flushing happening in about 7 days. It's going to be a lot of people that are in seats right now are going to be taken out. The people are revolting and they're beginning to speak up, at least in the US.
This is their last dance. They're fighting their last bullets. These are the last bullets they have, the banking cartel. Another major thing, guys, I don't know if you're aware. I also tweeted on the weekend, Joe Biden in his last days approved this Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to put out this 2025-003 statement that they're now trying to regulate alternative payment and fund transfer systems. This came out from Rohit Chopra, the director of Consumer
Going
Financial
after X payments straight away.
Well, it's so vague, James, as usual, just like Gary Gensler. They don't have the authority to do anything. People in the US have become brainwashed that these agencies can make law. Everything needs to be signed by a sitting president, people, to make law, to go through Congress. These are simply briefs. They put out an aggressive, fear-mongering brief, and everyone reacts like it's truth. This is rubbish. This will get thrown out on day one. But this is what they do. They use this technique. Don't fall for it ever again. That's my last word on that matter.
All right, gentlemen. I thought about 3 more things, see if we can cover everything. One quick check on stocks. What's the mindset during this panic stage? And then profit-taking strategies and anything else that might come up. But looking a little bit at the stocks, it's it's red everywhere today. Everything is red almost. MicroStrategy.
Pull up
exactly, except DJT. I actually don't know so much about the stock, except that it's highly correlated with his political success. But trend is up, and it's actually a good chart. Inverse head and shoulders.
I just go down the 24-hour losers if you want to know what to buy spot. I mean, Celestia dumped heavily. That's a great coin. Say dumped heavily. That's what I do. Aptos dumped heavily. You could just go down the losers at this point and buy spot if you are in that coin. It's a great time to buy. But I think generally across the board, spot buying right now is a great idea. If you're new to crypto, great entry. Better than it was last week. Put it that way.
For sure. I mean, if there's quality things that you wanted to buy, you felt you missed it, and it's backing up to some kind of support level, that can definitely be an opportunity. But many of them are not there yet. Like the last support of MicroStrategy was down here, 181, and before that, the entries were like down here at 35. But NVDA is back at its latest breakout level, but of course it's really late because the actual entries were down here in 2023. It's more than 10x ago. So I know, because some of you asked about that. Tesla, I think the entry was here. We talked about it at the show. Even though it has backed up a little bit, I think the correct entries were way earlier. So I feel that it hasn't backed up yet. I hope Marty's prediction comes true and that they pull back more, so we can get more entry opportunities.
A couple things people should pay attention to this week. The DXY. 110 is a major resistance on the DXY. It hit 110 this morning, which caused the capitulation. It's just bounced off one. It's a 109.92 right now. The DXY is the value of the dollar versus other fiat currencies, and really is the most manipulated thing the government can do. That is the quotient they manipulate to control markets. And they own large amounts of every currency, people. They can manipulate it however they want. And right now it's at 109.9. Until this comes down, crypto will not rally. We won't have a bull run. But it will come down soon. I believe 110 is the resistance. If we get through it, it won't be long last. The other thing to watch is global liquidity, which has ticked up. I'm watching it now. It's ticked up slightly. It's getting a slightly higher high. These are the things to watch out for. Until those things happen, we won't get a rally back, a large rally, to all-time highs. But right now, we're in that zone of buying. This is buying zone. This is called a discount window. Buy spot crypto. You know what to buy. We've told you all along. Go ahead.
Yeah, there was a question earlier regarding quantitative easing and where it's happening. So US is still in QT, quantitative tightening mode. Bank of Japan, QE forever. China going to be QEing hard because they have to get out of their hole, deflationary hole Mando mentioned. ECB doing some stealth QE as well to try contain stuff. I don't know what's happening in the UK regarding QE, but that's the liquidity cycle. And again, there's always a delay between that and the actual Bitcoin price, the usual 12 weeks. So watch this space as well.
Yeah, I think the question isn't are they going to print? It's how much are they going to print? That's the big question in big circles now. What is the print going to be? Is it going to be 9 trillion again, like 2008? Or is it going to be 20 trillion? People, we're talking a lot of liquidities coming. Where will it go? A larger percentage will go to crypto than ever before. I can assure you that.
Yeah. James, what are your tactics here during the panic mode? And how are you also thinking about profit-taking strategies? A lot of people made a lot of money on this run up. They can't sleep at night. They're worried, is there going down? How are you thinking in situations like this?
So last year I was exiting out of a couple of positions, moving more risk off, like some of my miners and things like that. Building up a safer position around cash for the last 3 months or so. And waiting and buying things like Tesla aggressively on dips. I do want to talk about Tesla and disruption because a large part of everything we face is not just crypto, but also AI related. And nobody is prepared for what is coming. There was a report from Morgan Stanley that got a lot of people excited this morning saying Tesla's going to $800, their bull market target. But if you read the fine print, it's by 2040. So $800 in the year 2040 will be worth about $80 at this rate of money printing. So bear that in mind, everybody. Fiat is debasing like mad. So for Morgan Stanley to come out and say Tesla will be worth $80, people get excited because see 800 in the current price. But in reality, the Wall Street analysts do not have a clue. Follow the most intelligent people in the world. Follow the disruptors and those that invest in the leading disruptor. Like a shout out to Brad Gerstner. He is in awe about what is coming for that one company beginning with T. I won't mention it because it gives, a lot of people hate Elon Musk. And Elon Musk also now has the ability to turn on cell phone signal across planet Earth. Can you just imagine for a second, to put disruption in perspective, every telco company in the world has to lay a ton of infrastructure, towers, copper, fiber optics, etc. That's all about to go to zero, ladies and gentlemen. Zero. Just one example of the type of disruption that's coming. And when you look at things like the S&P 500, it's made up of, I always say 60% of the S&P 500 probably won't be here in 8 to 10 years. It'll all die. It's all zombie companies. And we're talking banks. We're talking telco companies. We're talking media companies, all being disrupted. And who is at the center of all this? One person. Anyway, off my soapbox. I think it's just very, very important for people to understand the world is going to radically change in the next 24 to 36 months. Last night I drove 300 miles. Didn't touch the wheel.
Yeah, James, that was the best final summary of all. The world, this is the fourth turning. It's the 80 to 100 year cycle change. There'll be a systemic change in the economy, the monetary system, the government, culture, society, everything. And we can watch it all in real time. We feel it in our bones. Okay.
It's an exciting and a scary time to be alive. And as you say, CTO, era digitalis, buckle in. Yeah.
It's the new era starting. So, Mando, thanks for that. It was very, very, very great. Mando, what are your tactics at opportunities like this? What opportunities do you see? How are you reasoning in this situation? And what are your thoughts on profit taking when things get shakier?
Yeah, sure. So how I generally set up my portfolio is majors, and then which make up the vast majority of, like, let's say 60% of my portfolio, and then 40% is more in like left curve stuff, which has mainly been in AI for the last 2-3 months. JLP is where I have the vast majority of my majors. And that for me is like one of the best assets out there. Like, even if you bring up that chart this week, I don't know if you can, CTO, but this thing barely goes down, even with Solana down all the way down to like 170 this morning. So, but that does have quite a large amount of Solana exposure in it. Remember, this is the liquidity protocol token of Jupiter, so this powers all their perps trading, which is why it's mainly Solana. But that has quite a low volatility, and I like just being that because I'm in more risky stuff with the left curve stuff. The majority of that has been crypto meets AI. I see that as like as I've seen it for the last couple of months. I think this could unlock major value for crypto, but the ups and downs can be fairly substantial. So you've just got to, I think you've got to be defensive with the rest of your portfolio. I don't really have a view that this is going to be the end of like this cycle or anything like that. What I do view is that Q1 is going to be a period of macro volatility. That's very, very clear. Like what Marty just said, if the S&P goes down to 5,500, like Bitcoin's going to go a lot lower, or there'll be
absolutely.
Yeah. So like what I do think is be very, very prepared here for macro volatility and what that could mean to your portfolio. So don't just assume because we're all bullish that there can't be massive volatility each week. Like even this week where I thought, Trump would cause a pump, we saw massive volatility. I think we could see that for the rest of Q1 while we decide that. You have oil going high, you have bond yields going high, you've got the dollar going higher, you've got stocks going lower, you've got AI going lower, and you've got now Bitcoin heading south. So like be prepared for a lot more volatility now that macro is not just plain sailing. We had quite a nice 6-9 months there of macro looking like it was perfect storm for crypto, and we really rode off the back of that. Now it doesn't feel like that. I do think that Trump unlocks massive value for crypto, but I'm not saying that you should go more defensive, but just be aware that volatility is going to continue to be high for the rest of Q1. Like if the S&P could very easily go to 5,500. If anything flares up over Taiwan, again, expect AI to get trounced in that to get absolutely trounced. I think that's just the world I'm in. I think if that was to happen, like obviously the AI stuff would be more hurt, but the JLP stuff, just one of the best assets out there.
Yeah,
I mean, just share my perspective.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. No, go ahead.
I just want to clarify. JLP consists of 46% Sol, 11% Ethereum, 13% Bitcoin, 24% USDC stablecoin, and 6% USDT. So it's a basket of assets, and that's why it remains so consistent. It is an excellent choice for your store of value or your reserve. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, so my perspective on this is that, I mean, we don't know what will happen. Perhaps there's another massive dump. Perhaps it doesn't happen. My perspective is that if it happens, which I don't know, but if it happens, I want to be able to take advantage of it. Then I want to be able to buy great projects at crazy low prices. That's my perspective. And if it doesn't happen, okay, then the rest goes up. We win either way. But I think it's a mistake to put yourself in a situation where it has to go in a certain direction. And if it doesn't go in that direction, you're screwed. If you're in that state, everyone listening, I think try to get out of that. And that can be in either direction. Perhaps you're convinced that it will dump, so you put everything in a big short. Just because it worked on one guy in the movie, it doesn't mean that it's a great tactic. So try to be ready to take advantage. That's my perspective. Second, on the profit taking, if you're in a situation that you're trading with money that you absolutely need for your day-to-day life, that's not a good spot to be in. It's very, very difficult to stick to any kind of clear-minded strategy if you're in that situation. It's better to take out what you need to pay rent, buy food, buy clothes, take care of, you know, your family, and rather see in trading as some kind of game. That it's fun, you know, we're having fun here, we're friends, we're playing on this upside, on the downside, and so on and so forth. But you cannot be in a situation where you have to make a certain amount of money each month or you can't pay rent. Then you will never be able to stick to any strategy, no matter what it is. It's too difficult. That's my perspective on that part. And then we had one more thing. Marty, you wanted to show this one.
Yeah, this is an excellent chart. This model was done by Charts BTC. Hat tip to him and Bitbo BTC for posting it. There you can see where we are. This is the 16, 17 cycle. The red line is where we are now. As you can see, we're following that cycle pretty cleanly. And today we had that pullback. You can see it there very cleanly. We just went through that little pullback there at the end of the red line. So for some hope at the end of the show, I have tremendous hope. I believe that there will never be more money coming back into the market. It's all about getting out of the pool and getting back in the pool. Then goes into crypto. This is going to be the greatest bull run we've ever seen. You're going to have to give Trump the first couple of weeks to settle everything down. But this is what I think is going to happen. We're going to see a similar cycle to 2017. We've actually been saying that for a long time. This looks like 2017. And there you can see the numbers don't lie. There you go.
Yeah. One other interesting note is we have an interesting situation where whales are stacking again. We now have hedge funds coming in and stacking. They are buying the dip. That's why every time we go close to 90K, it gets bought up real fast. And in addition, we have a 7-year low of Bitcoin balance on exchanges. And that is also interesting. So we have the demand going through the roof and the supply tanking. It's only a matter of time before the laws of economics start to function.
And quickly before we end, those people that are playing leverage. This week I've had I've been in support mode on my community. Just people that have longed with money they can't afford to long with high leverage. It's a gambling addiction and it needs to end. It's not good for crypto as a whole. Understand crypto is predominantly a casino at this point. People are gambling too much money at high leverage. If you use leverage, do not use more than 1.8 to 4x ever. You will get flushed. They flushed today. Solana, they flushed literally to the dollar. 5x again. 5x will get
absolutely. Realize that crypto is like the world's best casino. It's like a casino where you can go in and you have more than 50% chance to go out. But say that, the roulette table gives you like 55% return. How would you play that? You wouldn't go in there and play one time and bet everything on red because you still have almost 50% to risk to lose. So you would do it many times, small, systematic, and that's how you would win. So
that's right.
So we have. I've seen in the comments that people are worried that Mando is getting liquidated on some huge leverage position. But Mando wrote in the chat here that having a mild food poisoning. So don't worry, guys. Mando will.
I don't use leverage. I barely ever lose leverage, guys. I'm just dying.
Go to the toilet and liquidate, brother.
Yeah.
So I think that there's good chances that Mando will not be liquidated and that he will be both from the market and the food poisoning. Monday.
I've been squirming all show, like sweating, and I'm like, oh god.
Go liquidate your shit coins, brother.
Watch the gas station sushi.
Yeah. Fantastic, guys. It's exciting times in the market. Let's wrap up. And thank you, Mando, for going through with the show despite
thank you,
this.
guys.
Thanks, everyone, for watching.
Yeah. Appreciate you, Mando. Get well soon, buddy.
And don't forget to subscribe to everyone. Links are in the description.
Next week's show is Trump Inauguration Day, plus Gary Gensler Resignation Day. Gary Gensler is out next show. It'll be a big show, guys.
Get the champagne.
We can bet which crypto firm Gary Gensler will join.
Binance.
Heather.
Set your reminders for next week. It's going to be a huge show. The most bullish show we've ever had.
Awesome. Good point.
Fantastic.
Oh, who's
Thank you,
moderating that?
everyone.
Mando, you
I think it's me.
Yeah,
I
it
think
is.
it's me next week, guys.
You're in control.
I'll
Great show.
liquidate
Thank
and then
you.
mod next week.
Stay safe out there, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Good luck.
Bye.